Here's a list of all the gear I used to film my YouTube videos in 2021. Links to everything that I talk about in the description below. An overview of the setup is I sit right here, I have my computer and my monitor right in front of me. The camera sits off to the side like this, microphone right out of the shot. I have a light right above me with the light dome, and over on the side you always see this light, but this light right here is just out of frame, creating my highlights. Starting with the camera, I use the Sony a7S III with the battery pack extension grip on the bottom, as well as the XLR K3M audio adapter on the top that allows me to connect an XLR microphone directly into the camera. The lens that I use in this setup is the Sony 50mm f1.8, and that's basically what I use 90% of the time. For everything else, the Sony f4 16-35. That covers me for everything that I need to shoot at a wide angle, and when I want that nice crisp foreground with a blurry background, I just throw my 50mm on there. When powering the camera in this setup, I also don't rely on just those two battery packs. What I do is have an extension cable that hangs from my Manfrotto tripod, and I have a USB power adapter connected directly into the USB-C input of the camera. With that combo, I've had no issues running out of power during my records. I do have a Manfrotto tripod that I've used for about 8 years. I'm not gonna recommend this specific model because just recently the tension on one of the legs has been loose. I have put in an order for this Manfrotto tripod that's more geared towards video, and I'll link that one in the description. For monitoring, I use the HDMI output from my a7S III directly into a Elivid monitor. If you just want something that makes your image bigger and you can put it somewhere closer to you, I would recommend something off Amazon like this Elivid monitor, but this was a piece of used gear that was easy for me to pick up. And I also mount that monitor using one of my favorite pieces of gear, the Dencom Systems ActionPod Pro. It's a clamp on one side and a thread on the other. One of the best, cheaper investments that you can make as a YouTuber that can really 10x the efficiency of your productions is one of these, a remote for your camera. Now this one's a little bit more expensive. It's the Remote Commander. Regardless of whatever make or model camera that you use, I would highly suggest getting a remote because for me personally, all I have to do is hit record, say a couple lines from my script, and then hit stop record. And this is key because when I bring my footage into the editor, what this used to look like is one complete take, and it would take me a while to trim down all of the fat. But now I'm able to start and stop whenever I know I had a good read, which essentially means if I zoom in here, I know that this whole section is what I would want to keep from this take. Everything else before it was probably something that wasn't good. So all I have to do is delete that little section. Same goes with right here. All I have to do is go to the end of the take and start editing on those waveforms and chop off the rest. Makes it so much more efficient. Now let's talk sound. I use the Rode NTG3B mounted directly above me on a Flashpoint C stand. It's an XLR boom microphone that does require phantom power. And here's where things get a little bit more interesting for my specific setup because I like to split my audio signal to two separate sources, one to the camera and the other to my audio interface. Let me explain. I connect my audio cable into the microphone. I run that cable directly into what is called a microphone splitter. And specifically, I use the ProSplit high performance microphone splitter by Artcessories. So the cable from my microphone goes into the microphone input on the splitter. And on the other side of the splitter, I have two clean outputs. The first output goes to the audio interface, which is my Rodecaster Pro. This is what supplies my 48 volts phantom power. The second output goes to the top of my Sony a7S III into the K3M audio adapter. The reason I split my signal to both sources is because I do a lot of material right here in front of the computer. I have my talking head footage, so everything from this microphone is going directly into the audio input on the camera, as well as when I'm doing my screen recordings for my tutorials, all of my audio from the microphone is also recorded directly into the computer. This makes it so much easier on me because I don't have to unplug and plug back in my microphone to different sources whenever I'm recording my talking head videos versus my screen recordings. For my main light, I use the Aputure 120D Mark II with the light dome, and this is mounted on another Flashpoint C stand. And for safety, it's important to note that you should be purchasing a sandbag to help weigh down your C-stands. I just have a 20-pound sandbag from B&H. It's great when you get it from them because it comes pre-filled with your sand. I use a Dracast LED light behind me to create these highlights. Both of the lights I use do have the option to use V-mount batteries, which makes it so much easier if you do need to go somewhere where you don't have access to power. For headphones, I use the Bose QC35-2. I can have these things on all day and they don't really hurt my ears, or I don't really get uncomfortable. Currently, I edit with a 2019 MacBook Pro with these specs, but I did order one of the new MacBook Pros with this spec. I do still use the old school Apple monitor. This is something that I'll look to upgrade in the future, just not right now. I use the wireless Apple keyboard with the number pad and a Logitech MX Master 3 mouse. When I'm editing, I use an external SSD, the Samsung T7, and for my archiving, I use Seagate 8TB external hard drives. To keep all that organized and to back up my daily projects at the end of the day, I use a software called Forklift. I made a whole video about that. If you want to check it out, I'll link it right here. My desk is from IKEA, it is adjustable, and I believe the model of it is called the Bacant. When I am standing, I put an ergo-driven topo mat underneath me. I like it because it helps support my lower back because of the cushion, as well as you can kind of stretch your calves by putting your feet in different positions. For screen recording, I use Camtasia, and to edit all my videos, I use Adobe Premiere Pro. Again, everything I talked about will be linked in the description below. I do realize a lot of the gear that I went over isn't for people just starting out on YouTube. It did take me a long time to acquire this kind of gear. I just wanted to put something together for people that are curious as to what kind of gear that I'm using today in 2021. If this video was helpful, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. If you are curious about different kinds of microphones of all budgets for YouTube, I made a whole video about that right here. Until next time, my name's Javier Mercedes, and I hope you're out there living a life of abundance. Bye.